Raw is a miserable show, but we're going to talk about it anyway because almost literally nothing happened, if we're being honest, but it was on the air, and I'm kind of obligated to talk about it. I ain't obligated to talk about it long, though, so we'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. Draft, don't care. But Ilya Dragunov was called up to Raw. Lyra Valkyria was called up to Raw. And Blair Davenport was called up to SmackDown. All of them were pretty much a lock. Every single one of them lost on spring breaking. Every single one of them was brought up on the main roster. That's kind of how it works. You lose on your way out, and then you're called up. So Blair Davenport, I think, was the very last pick of the televised draft. I heard there was going to be another NXT pick afterwards. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So my beloved NXT loses Dragunov, loses Lyra Valkyria, two of the workhorses over the course of the year. But thankfully, NXT operates on a system where these people get out of the way and other people get a chance to move up. So Dragunov hopefully has done his job, and there are people who are prepared to take his spot. None of them are going to be as good as he is as a performer, but it's about time to move Dragunov along. He's on the same brand as Volta and the rest of Imperium, which is, I know, interesting for a lot of people who have an obsession with the Dragunov Imperium lore. So that could start a thing that could last forever. So that's fine. Lyra Valkyria is on the same brand as Becky Lynch, knowing their story that they did together. They get a chance to run that back. Unfortunately, Lyra Valkyria has not discovered a personality since she feuded with Becky Lynch. So Blair Davenport is going to be very interesting. She was underutilized in NXT. She spent a lot of that time injured. So I'm really questioning how she's going to go along on SmackDown. Especially when you see her card, it said that she has gothic charisma. Which is like, oh, okay, she's going to end up like Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, where she's just going to be, oh, technically she was drafted, but will you ever see her on television? Probably not. Probably not. You probably will not be seeing much Blair Davenport at all. She's likely to get stuck on main event. And I'm not saying I hope that happens. I'm saying that's just kind of what happens. A lot of the women on SmackDown are not featured. They've been running the same women forever. Now, they did get rid of Damage Control, which could help the women's division on SmackDown. So maybe Blair Davenport has a chance. But I can see her just getting the Isla Dawn, Alba Fire treatment. So it's unfortunate. But Dragunov is going to be featured. He's going to be there. They're going to do a lot with him. I expect him to collide with Sami Zayn by the summertime, because Dragunov has a lot going for him. In other draft news, because Triple H didn't create a blow-off match, his only idea for the LWO and Legado del Fantasma is to separate them in the draft. So they were separated in the draft because they couldn't stop fighting, apparently. Instead of, having a big blow-off match where, loser leaves town or something, where you might be able to make some money, pop a number. No. We're just going to end it on a draft. Pathetic. Utterly, fully pathetic. Speaking of pathetic, let's talk about the rest of this show. Logan Paul, Damian Priest, IShowSpeed, Patrick Mahomes, and Judgment Day. What a menagerie this is. Start the show. There's just so many of them. I have no idea. IShowSpeed and Logan Paul are there as presenters. Logan Paul gets into it with Jey Uso later. I don't understand what the big deal is with there. It's clearly that they're setting up the Jey Uso Logan Paul thing. Just in case, even though we know it's not just in case, it's basically Jey Uso is going to lose and Logan Paul is going to be the next guy he challenges. So you can see that coming a mile away. Now they turned Patrick Mahomes heel in Kansas City, which seems pretty ridiculous by having him teamed up with Logan Paul. Now, Logan Paul starts making fun of Jey Uso. Judgment Day jumps him. Logan Paul then goes outside the ring to Patrick Mahomes, gets his Super Bowl rings, and tries to punch Jey Uso, ends up punching JD McDonough and putting bruises and scallops all across the head of JD McDonough. Like, he got a big, gigantic rock head. So the damage it did to him was pretty funny. Like, he had a diaper rash on his face. Very entertaining. Damian Priest is sick of Judgment Day failing and screwing up. Dominic Mysterio was disappointed in how they fell so far in the draft. I don't know when they was drafting. It don't matter. Dominic was also upset that his daddy got drafted to Raw. He's not happy about that. Ray started mocking Dominic's mustache, called him Dirty Sanchez, which is great. As he had like he ain't never seen it before. Fantastic. And then these bums ended up in the main event. You want to waste everybody's time? Put Judgment Day in the main event. Of course, Judgment Day lose to a menagerie of Andrade, who didn't do shit all night, Ricochet, and Jey Uso. Defeated Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and JD McDonough. JD McDonough screwed everything up. Last week they did an angle where JD McDonough was getting frustrated with his position in Judgment Day and feels like he's been doing more of the work and that he's been helping Judgment Day more than they've been helping him. So they're teasing that JD McDonough is going to leave Judgment Day, which you can't do fast enough for me. I don't care about any of this. I don't care about Jey Uso versus Damian Priest. Andrade, what is he doing there? He's about to go to SmackDown, so he's basically just hanging out, I guess. He's just hanging out with the fellas. So it was a boring as shit main event that we didn't need to watch. Gunta defeated Xavier Woods. They decided to go through with the Xavier Woods as a fighting babyface. You know, knee and ankle was damaged and savagely beaten by Gunter. Kofi Kingston's going to throw in the towel. Woods was like, I got this. 3 minutes later, he tapped out to the STF. It's like, you should have just saved yourself the drama and tapped out in the Boston Crab, you dork, or let Kofi Kingston throw in the towel. Goddamn dork. Who cares? Next, man. Chad Gable makes a deal with R-Truth. They shook hands, and the nature of the deal has not yet been released, but clearly this was for Alpha Academy to get a tag team championship match, which they promptly lost as soon as I went to the bathroom later in the show. Like, I didn't even plan to go to the bathroom and miss this match. It just happened that way, which is glorious, because who the hell cares about this? I will say this, though. Chad Gable seething at Akira Tozawa is pretty funny. Him being irrationally angry at Akira Tozawa for almost no reason is really funny, because he feels like he just want to wring his neck every time you see Akira Tozawa, you son of a... Why I oughta... He been winding that punch for a while. It will take Tozawa's head off. During this promo segment, of course, he gets kicked in the face by Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn defends the Intercontinental Championship against Bronson Reed in a match that you knew was going to be a throwaway match. It's the second match on a 3-hour show, and it's like, an hour into this show? Bronson Reed is winning when Chad Gable shows up and gets everybody disqualified. This leads to Bronson Reed beating up everybody standing with the belt. He's not angry enough, as far as I'm concerned. He should be madder than this. Drew McIntyre confronts Booker T, because Booker T is the draft analyst. But he clearly has not been paying attention, because he thinks that Trick Williams and Roxanne Perez can be drafted. They cannot, by the way, because they're champions. So they can't be drafted. But Booker T doesn't pay attention to that. That's why let facts get away of your narrative. Anyway, Drew McIntyre is upset that CM Punk was drafted before he was. He's going to pitch a bitch about it. He says he knows how Booker T feels about CM Punk. He was there. And says that Booker T is changing on him. He goes out there to complain after he was drafted about his draft position. And CM Punk interrupts him, says, hey, I'm up here, bitch. Drew McIntyre spends a few minutes trying to find out where he is. Finally finds him only for Phil to double back to the ring. Phil says he's going to set this thing straight in a shorter amount of time than when Drew McIntyre was world champion. So he's got 5 minutes and 46 seconds or something to that effect. He says simple wrestling economics. He's the best in the world. On the mic, in the ring, at the commentary booth, he's worth more than Drew McIntyre. Then he says to Drew that when I'm 100%, I'm going to make your life a living hell. I was okay with that. This was okay. I see people are really hyping it up, like they're kind of overhyping it. This Looney Tunes stuff here is fine. You know, we know that neither one of these guys can wrestle right now. They're both injured. But that's kind of what Drew McIntyre came out to say. I'm injured, but I'm here to wrestle. I'm fighting through it. Look at me. I'm big and burly. Why am I making so many jokes? And, you know, Drew's out there. Congratulations on Drew McIntyre's new contract. He got a new sword, too. The Rock gave him a sword, so he's got another sword. Not this Vince McMahon sword. He's got a new sword because he's got a new daddy now. Interesting. Interesting. So that's all well and good. But some people are super hyping this Punk McIntyre thing. I'm kind of even on it. I like what they're doing. I like Drew McIntyre more as a badass, less as a Twitter troll. But I'm one of those people that kind of looks in things at archetypes. And I see that Drew McIntyre does have a personality. He is showing it, which is great. But let's not belittle that he's a, 6 foot, he's like 6'6", maybe 6'5", wall of muscle, you know. And CM Punk is 42 and frail. I would like for Drew McIntyre to crack his back over his knee like Bane did to Batman and then toss his remains into the wind. That would be great. It would be great money for CM Punk too, as he had to fight back from that. Candice LeRae defeated Maxine Dupree after Indy Hartwell shoved Ivy Nile into the ring post. Maxine Dupree was significantly better in this match than she had ever been before. That is dedication and hard work. I'm not saying she was the greatest of all time or anything like that, but she was better than she was usually. So you got to give her some credit. Candice LeRae still stinking it up. I can't believe she's still there. But this is Triple H's NXT WWE. Braun Breaker's backstage talking about being there to take over. Sheamus gets all up in his grill, says that he reminds him of a young Sheamus, a young, hungry Sheamus. It really doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I don't know. Is Sheamus going to wrestle Braun Breaker? I certainly hope not, because it's not really time for Braun to have full matches yet. The top of the show featured Becky Lynch as the Raw Women's Champion. She was interrupted by Liv Morgan, who wanted a championship match because Becky Lynch wouldn't even be champion without her. Becky Lynch, of course, then made fun of Liv Morgan, saying, I beat you last week, that's why you're not the champion now. Nia Jax came out there, no apparent reason, because she's already been drafted to SmackDown. So she's got literally nothing to gain from this. She ends up challenging one of them two to the match. Liv Morgan accepted because, you know, a 5'2" woman should certainly be beating an Amazon in a wrestling match. And that's exactly what happened. Nia Jax was defeated by Liv Morgan. There was some shenanigans attached to it, but not enough. Not enough shenanigans to justify what I just saw. In any event, after being squished with Samoan drops and basically other things, Liv Morgan takes advantage of Nia Jax being distracted by Tiffany Stratton and Naomi fighting outside the ring to hit Oblivion to win the match. I'm okay with that. It doesn't make sense, but they're trying to do something with Liv Morgan, and they wanted to get Nia Jax off this brand and to pass her heat to somebody else, so they decided Liv Morgan was the one. Backstage, Becky Lynch tells Liv Morgan she's got her title match. She doesn't say when, but we're going to assume it's in France. After that, she being Becky Lynch is confronted by Damage Control, who are now been moved to Raw, so they can't continue their forever feud with Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, but they will still be defending the tag team titles against them in France. Fine. Whatever. I don't think it matters that much, if we're being honest. I would imagine they would have kept them on the same brand with Blair Davenport, considering Blair Davenport made her name in Japan, wrestling, Joshi's, and that probably would have been a better usage of Blair Davenport, but does it really matter? No, not really. Not really matter. Doesn't really matter at all. Adam Pearce celebrates the fact that Chelsea Green has been drafted to SmackDown. He doesn't like Chelsea Green. He doesn't want that. A lot of people are disappointed. They're upset. Their heads hung low because Samantha Irvin's special introduction for Chelsea Green is no more. It's over. Interestingly enough, I forgot to mention this. When the LWO was drafted, Carlito was drafted with them. And when Imperium was drafted, Vinci was not drafted with them. So the question of whether Carlito was still in the LWO or not is floating around out there. And Ray says he has mixed emotions about that whole thing. I don't understand what you mean by mixed emotions. Either you ride for the young dog or you don't. Either it was okay to kick the young dog shit in or it wasn't. Come on, Ray. What you got going on, man? Why are you sitting in the gray zone? It should be clear that it's not okay to kick the young boy's ass. Carlito was washed. I mean, it's just is what it is, but he's got to make the most of it. He's going to have to make the most of it. And Legado del Fantasma will be staying on SmackDown so he can annoy Andrade for a year. You could just know that that's about to go on for a long time. Santos Escobar and Andrade, they already started it. So you can pretty much tell that this thing is about to become one of those feuds that never end. Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio were up to some wickedness backstage. They were talking in private, let's say, having private conversations that nobody else was privy to. They keep it a secret from the rest of the class. But they're being very low-key with this. So we're going to see where this is going. Of course, Liv Morgan said that the revenge tour continues until she gets what she wants, which is, I guess, the world title. That's pretty much it for the show. There wasn't a lot to it. The draft was an utter waste of time. Everything else seems to have slowed down. I've seen a lot of people say, all the WrestleMania hype, all the WrestleMania momentum is gone. It's like they had this quick turnaround with Backlash, right? Where the Backlash was literally like 3 or 4 weeks after WrestleMania. So close together that you didn't really have time to do much else except for put together a pastiche, kind of like a really weak card. And yes, Backlash is kind of a weak card because it was so close to WrestleMania. But they really need to get some work done on building some things for the long term. And they need to do this quickly because the way Raw looks now is drab, is boring. Nobody cares about any of these people. Virtually nobody has any heat. Damian Priest is not a legitimate world champion. At least he's not looking like it yet. There's still a lot of work to be done. Yes, I know the company is suffering from some injuries, but you got to tough it out. AEW has a ton of injuries too. There's no excuse to put on bad television. There's no excuse for JD McDonough to work the pay-per-view go-home show in the main event. There's just no good excuse for that. I don't care how big his head is. It just doesn't make sense for him to be in the main event, ever, for any reason. So there's that. Thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.